All right, so we've got a pretty hefty stack of reports here. It's all about the future of jobs. Looks like you're really trying to get a handle on what skills are going to be in demand, what the job market's going to look like, and how companies are thinking about handling all these changes.
You've got some great sources for this deep dive. We've got excerpts from the 2023 and the 2025 World Economic Forum Future of Jobs reports talk about a front row seat to how work is changing.
It's like a time machine, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just 2 years between these reports, and it's really interesting to see how predictions and priorities have shifted. And we'll be bringing in insights from LinkedIn and Indeed, too.
We even have some input from GPT-4, giving us an AI perspective on how to assess yourself in this changing job landscape.
Okay, so both reports agree that technology is like the biggest driver of change. But the 2025 report really emphasizes how other factors are playing an even bigger role than they thought just a couple of years ago.
Yeah, things like economic conditions, concerns about climate change, and even demographic shifts.
For example, the 2023 reports was all about the green transition, creating tons of jobs. But by 2025, the focus has shifted to broadening digital access. That's interesting, right?
Yeah, it is. The 2025 report suggests this shift might be because they've realized that bridging the digital divide is key to getting more people participating in the economy and driving innovation across the board. And that includes green technologies.
Makes sense. And remember, all that talk about mass automation seems like those fears have calmed down a bit.
The 2023 report shows that, yeah, automation adoption has actually been slower than they predicted. Could be a bunch of reasons. It's complicated to integrate AI into existing workflows. There are concerns about people losing their jobs, and the regulations are still evolving.
And the 2025 report even suggests that this Gen AI, generative AI, could actually help workers instead of replacing them. What are your thoughts on that?
It's an important point. Gene AI has huge potential to boost what humans can do. Imagine having an AI assistant that can help you analyze data, create content, or even do those repetitive tasks for you. Then you're free to do the more strategic, more fulfilling work.
So with all these shifts happening, what skills should our listeners be working on to stay ahead of the curve?
Well, tech skills are obviously essential. AI, big data, those are at the top, followed by cybersecurity and just a solid understanding of technology in general.
Not surprising. But I'm really struck by how much these reports emphasize soft skills.
Oh, absolutely. Soft skills are becoming just as important as the tech stuff. The reports really highlight things like creative thinking, resilience, and flexibility, especially with all the economic uncertainty and, of course, curiosity and lifelong learning.
It seems like lifelong learning isn't just a trendy phrase anymore. It's essential in this rapidly changing world. The 2025 report even talks about the growing importance of environmental stewardship. Who knew being eco-conscious could boost your career?
It shows how intertwined these global trends are becoming. Sustainability is front and center, and companies want people who understand these challenges and can contribute to eco-friendly solutions.
And the 2025 report gives us a useful list of the fastest growing and fastest declining jobs. Looking at those, do you think our listeners' current skills will be transferable? What new skills might they need to, future-proof their careers?
That's a great question. Really depends on what they're doing now and what they want to be doing. The key is to figure out where your strengths are and how those line up with the new trends. Can your current skills be used in growing fields? Are there any gaps in your knowledge you need to fill to be more competitive? It really highlights how important it is to, take charge of your own career development. Look for opportunities that fit your goals, even if your current employer isn't completely on board.
That's a really good point. Taking ownership of your career path is more crucial now than ever before. And speaking of company strategies, both reports mention that companies are starting to look beyond the traditional ways of hiring.
Yeah, definitely. They're moving away from those strict degree requirements. They're more open to alternative credentials like online certifications or boot camps.
That's great, right? It opens so many doors for people who maybe didn't have access to or didn't thrive in those traditional education settings.
Absolutely. It makes the job market more inclusive. It allows companies to, draw from a bigger pool of talent. Really forces companies to rethink what it means to be qualified, challenges those old assumptions about success.
Both reports also emphasize diversity, equity, and inclusion, which
Hmm.
is something we're seeing more and more.
Companies are finally realizing that a diverse workforce is a more innovative and resilient workforce. They're understanding that different perspectives lead to better problem solving, more creativity, and a stronger company culture overall.
We're seeing more initiatives focused on recruiting, retaining, and promoting people from underrepresented groups, which is fantastic. And it's not just the right thing to do. It's good for business.
Exactly. So let's dive into some of the specific insights from the reports about the jobs themselves. Both offer valuable info about the fastest growing and fastest declining roles, gives you a sense of where things are headed.
Yeah, let's do that. What are some of those fastest growing roles?
Well, the 2023 report puts AI and machine learning specialists right at the top. Sustainability specialists, business intelligence analysts, and information security analysts are in high demand too.
And the 2025 report adds robotics engineers and data analysts to that mix. So it's pretty obvious that data and technology are going to be huge in the coming years.
No doubt. But it's not just about those technical skills, right? Those soft skills we were talking about, like creative thinking, resilience, and the ability to learn and adapt. Those are going to be critical too.
No matter how advanced technology gets, there are things machines just can't replicate. The human touch, emotional intelligence, and the ability to connect with others. Those are the skills that will really make you stand out in the future.
Couldn't agree more. Now, what about those jobs that are declining? What should our listeners be aware of?
The 2023 report mentions data entry clerks, administrative and executive secretaries, accounting, bookkeeping, and payroll clerks. And the 2025 report says the same.
These are jobs that are pretty easy to automate, especially as technology keeps getting better. But just because a job is declining doesn't mean it's disappearing altogether.
Exactly. Sometimes those roles are evolving, becoming more specialized or requiring new skills. So even if your current job is on the decline list, it's not the end of the world. It means you need to be proactive, learn new things, and adapt to stay relevant.
Exactly. Both reports highlight how companies are investing heavily in reskilling and upskilling their workforce to help employees adapt to these changes and stay engaged. It benefits everyone involved.
Now, you mentioned earlier that the 2025 report digs into some data on wage trends. What did they find?
The report found that globally, over half of employers expect to increase how much of their revenue goes to wages over the next 5 years. They're predicting higher salaries for several reasons, including increased productivity, competition for talent, and government regulations.
So it's not just inflation or the cost of living, it's more complex than that. What about the gender pay gap? What did the report say about that?
Unfortunately, it looks like the gender pay gap is still a problem. Men tend to get a bigger increase in pay than women across most job transitions, especially when moving from entry-level to mid-level roles and from mid-level to senior-level roles.
That's disappointing, but it's important to be aware of these disparities so we can keep working towards closing that gap.
Absolutely. Awareness is crucial if we want to see change.
Okay, let's shift gears and talk about the green job landscape. The 2025 report highlighted a global skills gap, which means there just aren't enough people with the right skills to fill all those green jobs.
That's right. It's a challenge for companies trying to find qualified people, but it's also a great opportunity for anyone looking to develop in-demand green skills.
The report specifically mentioned that environmental engineers, sustainability specialists, and renewable energy technicians are seeing rapid growth.
If you're passionate about sustainability and want a career that has a future, you should definitely check out the green job market.
Now, both reports really go beyond that simple robots are taking our jobs narrative. They get into some really fascinating details. For instance, the 2025 report reveals that green hiring has been outpacing general hiring trends for years. What exactly is green hiring?
Green hiring means that companies are prioritizing candidates who have green skills and are committed to sustainability. It's a trend we're seeing in all sorts of industries. Companies realize how valuable it is to have employees who can contribute to their environmental goals.
Well, it's not just about filling those specific green jobs, but it's about including sustainability in the entire hiring process.
Exactly. And the fact that green hiring has been outpacing general hiring for years, that shows a real shift in what employers are looking for. It's not just a niche thing anymore, it's a mainstream consideration.
That is encouraging. The 2025 report also notes that global unemployment is at its lowest point since 1991, although, of course, there are differences from region to region.
It's definitely a good sign for the global economy, but it also highlights how important it is to make sure people have the skills they need to navigate this changing job market. They need the right skills to take advantage of the opportunities that come up.
Speaking of opportunities, we touched on that boom in social jobs earlier. This is especially interesting for people who want work that has a purpose, work that makes a real difference in the world.
Absolutely. Indeed's data shows that social jobs, especially in healthcare, education, and social services, are growing a lot. These jobs not only offer a sense of purpose and fulfillment, but also tend to be more secure during economic downturns.
It's a pretty compelling combination. All right, we've covered a lot in this section. Company strategies, the jobs that are growing and shrinking. those interesting wage trends, and the exciting opportunities in the green job market.
We've also talked about how humans and machines are working together and how important both technical and soft skills are in this changing landscape. All of this should be helpful for our listeners as they think about their own careers and the skills they might want to develop.
We have one more part to this deep dive where we'll explore some region-specific insights. The 2025 report pointed out some interesting differences in how different parts of the world are approaching the future of work.
Yeah, it's fascinating to see how your location can shape how you view these global trends. For example, the report found that companies in Central Asia are kind of lagging behind when it comes to recognizing how climate change is going to impact their workforce.
Really? What's the situation there?
Only about 19% of the people they surveyed in Central Asia think that climate trends are relevant to their business. That's way lower than in other regions. It suggests they might be missing something important in their planning.
It's a big difference. What do you think is causing that disconnect?
It's hard to say for sure. Could be a few things. Maybe there's just not enough awareness about how climate change could impact them economically and socially. Or maybe they just see it as less of a threat compared to other problems they're facing. It's something that needs more research and discussion to really understand why those views are so different.
For sure. Makes you wonder how that might affect their ability to attract investment and create jobs in that growing green economy, right?
Yeah, that's a valid point. Sustainability is becoming more and more important for businesses all over the world. Regions that are slow to adapt might find themselves falling behind.
On the flip side, the report highlighted some European countries that are really leading the way in developing green skills and promoting sustainability.
Places like Sweden, the Netherlands, and Denmark are great examples. They've put a lot of resources into green technologies, renewable energy, and education programs to give their workers the skills they need for a sustainable economy. And it's paying off. They're seeing job growth and economic benefits.
It just shows how much government policies and investments can really shape the future of work and drive positive change.
Absolutely. Sustainability isn't just something you should do, it's a smart move economically, too.
Now let's get into some of those less talked about trends that the reports highlight. Like the 2025 report reveals that green hiring has consistently been growing faster than general hiring for years. What exactly does that mean?
Green hiring is when companies prioritize hiring people who have green skills and a proven commitment to sustainability. We're seeing this across all kinds of industries. Companies are realizing they need employees who can help them reach their environmental goals.
So it's not just about filling those specific green jobs, it's about making sustainability part of the whole hiring process.
Right. And the fact that green hiring has been growing faster than overall hiring for years shows a real change in what employers are prioritizing. It's not just a niche thing anymore. It's become a mainstream consideration.
That's great to hear. The 2025 report also says that global unemployment is at its lowest since 1991, although, of course, there are variations depending on where you are.
Yeah, it's a good sign for the global economy, but it also makes it even more important to equip people with the skills they need to navigate this job market and seize the opportunities that come up.
And speaking of opportunities, we talked about that boom in social jobs earlier. This is especially interesting for people who are looking for work that's meaningful, work that makes a difference.
Absolutely. Indeed's data confirms that those social jobs, especially in healthcare, education, and social services, are seeing a lot of growth. And those fields don't just offer a sense of purpose, they also tend to be more stable during economic downturns.
It's a pretty powerful combination. So thinking about all of this, what are the main takeaways you'd want our listener to remember as they think about the future of work?
The future of work is constantly changing and full of possibilities. It's shaped by a lot of things: technology, the economy, the environment, and changing social values. If you want to thrive in this environment, you need to stay informed about these trends, develop both hard and soft skills, and be adaptable.
I think that's a great point. It's not about knowing exactly what the future holds. It's about giving yourself the tools and the mindset to deal with whatever changes come your way.
Exactly. And remember, this deep dive has really just scratched the surface. Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep asking questions.
The future of work is what we make it, and it's informed people like you who have the power to shape it in a positive direction. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.